Hi guys, and welcome to another video. If you're new here, my name is Allie. I'm probably best known as the Bullman Bunch on TikTok, and today I'm going to be answering all your questions about being a working mom. If you don't know me, here's a little background. I am 23 years old. I graduated college almost a year ago, and for the past year, I've been the sole financial provider of our family. I work both part-time here on social media and full-time as an HR coordinator for a medical staffing company. I started out as a recruiter though. It wasn't a great fit for me, and I'm lucky that my company was able to transition me to another role as a human resources coordinator, which I am enjoying a lot more. My fiance Matthew just graduated from college and he is now on the job hunt as well. Our 2-year-old son, Gray, is in daycare at a Montessori school part-time. He goes 2 days a week for now. Before I jump into the video, I want to thank Nectar for sponsoring this video. When we moved out of my parents' house, I knew we would need a new mattress, so I'm so thankful that Nectar sent us this one for us to try out. It was incredibly convenient too. They were able to ship it right to our door. We sleep so soundly on this 12-inch memory foam 3-layer mattress. Each layer helps to keep us cool at night, and I've honestly noticed such a difference from traditional mattresses we've used in the past. This mattress is super soft while still remaining incredibly supportive. Nectar also offers a 365-night home trial as well as a forever warranty. Go ahead and check out the link in my description to get one for yourself. Would you ever quit your job and be a full stay-at-home mom and content creator? This is kind of just a big maybe what if, to be honest. I do like the idea of being able to commit more time to content creation, but there are a lot of pros and cons. For example, they don't offer, obviously, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram doesn't offer any sort of insurance benefits, and right now I provide insurance for both Grayson and I. Social media income, pretty much like any form of self-employment, can be unreliable at times. You never really know what sort of month you're gonna have as far as views go, commission, just what brand deals roll your way. Not to say if this platform doesn't grow a lot, it could be something I would do in the future. Do you ever get overwhelmed when you have more than one thing to do at a time, such as work? I guess in a more broad sense, do I ever get overwhelmed with all my responsibilities? Definitely. That's something I currently struggle with. I just am feeling all the weight of, one, being a mom and all the things that I need to do to be a good mom, which is my number one priority, but it's also obviously important that I provide for my son, so my work's important, and it's a big time commitment to be there, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I feel like in this day and age that's kind of glossed over, but it's a lot of time to spend away from the home, and so while I'm doing all that, I'm not able to, be with my son or dedicate any time to social media. And brands will have these deadlines and I really have to try my best to stay on top of them, but it quite truly is very hard, and I only have so many daylight hours to film stuff like this, so I have a very jam-packed schedule, and sometimes that can be stressful when it feels like I'm missing deadlines or that I'm, not doing enough. How many days a week does Gray go to school? I kind of touched on this. He goes 2 days a week. When Matthew was in college, it was really helpful for him to have those 2 days to be able to do all his schoolwork. And now he's searching for a job, so we may have to tweak that schedule, but for now it works. Kind of a follow-up question, who looks after Gray? The days he's not in daycare, Matthew watches him all day, and then I usually spend most of the time with him in the evenings while Matthew is cooking dinner, cleaning up, and then on the weekends I obviously spend as much time with him as possible. I usually try not to make any weekend plans that don't involve Grayson because I want to spend every minute possible I can when I'm not at work. Does Gray understand where you go when you go to work? I think to a certain extent he does. He seems to recognize a routine and a pattern. Like when I leave for work in the morning, he says, bye, I love you, or bye, see ya, and he seems to understand. I don't know that he understands where I'm going, but he knows every day in the morning I leave. When I come back, he's obviously excited to see me. So I think in a sense he understands our routine. I'm not sure he quite understands why. So that's kind of hard because I wish he did understand, but I know eventually he will. Was it hard to choose for Gray to start daycare, and why was it the best option for him and you? So when we first put Gray in daycare, we initially thought Matthew was going to start work as an EMT since he's EMT certified, but as time went on, we kind of had a hard time figuring out a schedule that would work with both of us working full-time, and at that point we wouldn't have been able to afford to send him to full-time daycare, so we kind of started him out with the 2 days so Matthew could take his classes, and Gray really just ended up loving going, and it ended up working well with our schedule and kind of the flow of our family, so we kept him in just those 2 days a week, and it's worked really well for us. Can you tell us more about your job? Yes, so I'm an HR coordinator, but that doesn't really tell you guys much about what I actually do. But the main bulk of my job is something called like compliance or onboarding, where basically at my job, when we get a new employee, I go through all their like paperwork, drug test, background check, all that stuff to get them ready to start their first day. And these are people in the healthcare field. Do you feel mom guilt leaving him? No shame. I don't know. I'd say it's hard because I think I'd feel guilty if it was like a personal choice to work. I mean, it is a personal choice, but it's more that I know I need to provide for him. Like if I didn't do it, we wouldn't be able to, you know, have our own place and pay for everything he needs. I know I'm contributing to our family in a very important way to give him the best life possible. Do I miss him? Yes, but I also know he's in great hands with Matthew, and I know the days he's at daycare, he has so much fun. He literally like doesn't even want to say bye to us now, and he hops out of the car and runs in. So I know he's well taken care of, so it doesn't make me feel guilty, but I do sometimes feel sad about the moments I feel like I'm missing. How much of your income is daycare? If my partner worked, his whole income would be daycare. Yes, this is a good point because this is something that we kind of ran into when we were initially going to have Matthew start working when he first got EMT certified before he graduated college. And we were just realizing if we had Gray in full-time daycare that it would pretty much just eat up Matthew's whole paycheck. So we were like, that doesn't make sense. I'd rather just have Matthew stay at home and watch him so we can save money that way. Our daycare is around $500 a month for 2 days a week. So it's pretty pricey, but honestly, that was pretty much standard for everywhere we looked. We looked somewhere else that was $800 for 2 days a week. And so it felt like the best price we could find for that quality of daycare because I wasn't really willing to sacrifice the quality of daycare for a lower price point. I would rather live in a crappy house than not that this is a crappy house, I'm just saying I'd rather pay, like make sacrifices in other areas of our life than sacrifices with his schooling. While it is expensive, it still makes sense. If it didn't make sense, we wouldn't send him at all, but because it still is worth it to send him and it's not overburdening us, we will continue to do it. But that's a huge thing to think about if you're deciding to either, you know, stay home or go to work, because if Matthew would have worked full-time this past year while he was finishing school, not only would it be super overwhelming, but pretty much all of what he worked would just pay for daycare, and to me that's not worth it. How are you budgeting now that you pay rent? It's funny you asked that because I was very, very good at budgeting when we lived with my parents, and now I feel that has gone to the wayside a little bit. I still do the same thing that I used to do, where I take 85% of any sort of paycheck I get, whether from social media or my job, and I put it directly into savings. But honestly, with being on our own, there's been so many unexpected expenses that have come our way. Like we had to buy a lot of furniture. Luckily, we were able to borrow a lot from my parents, but we still did have to buy some things. We've had to replace like 2 tires this month. Just all these expenses that end up like doubling on top of each other, like car registration. I guess this month our expenses were car related. Like we just had his birthday party. So it hasn't been as easy to stick to our budget now that we do have a lot of expenses such as utilities, rent, all that, but I'm trying to get back on it. I think I need to adjust our goals a little bit now that we are paying rent and some of those bigger expenses. But yes, hopefully we will be back on the budget plan soon, and if I have something more solidified, I will explain that better in a future video. Exhaustion. How have you ever dealt with hating your job? So I am exhausted a fair bit, I'd say. And sometimes I come home from work, and then once I put Grace into bed, I have no energy to do anything besides just sit around and watch TikToks, which then ends up biting me in the butt the next day because I've neglected a bunch of social media and household responsibilities. So I really try to be as effective with my time management as I can and not let it overwhelm me, but it's very difficult. I wouldn't say I've dealt with hating my job, but before, when I was a recruiter, I really did not enjoy it, and I felt pretty bored with what I was doing, and bored but simultaneously overwhelmed. Whereas in HR, I'm not a very salesy person, so recruiting wasn't super motivating for me, but I'm liking HR a lot better, so I'm glad my company was able to accommodate that and find a better fit for me. What do you think is the biggest challenge faced by mothers in the workplace? I'd say, it sounds so cliche, but the expectation to work like you don't have children and parent like you don't have work. It's very hard to be split between the two things, and it's not like you can really neglect either of those responsibilities. You have to be on your A game with both, and I just think there's a ton of things that make it hard for moms to both be the best employee they can be and be the best parent they can be. For example, the short maternity leaves we have here, I don't have a solution, but I know it hinders a lot of breastfeeding relationships. I was very fortunate to stay at home pretty much the whole first year of my son's life, but I cannot imagine being as exhausted as I was with a newborn and then going to work. I would have snapped. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I would have been a terrible employee on 2 hours of sleep, and at that point I was breastfeeding all the time. I know my supply would have taken such a hit if I was at work only pumping every few hours. That's my little rant, but I don't think most workplaces are supportive enough of working mothers. Did you have to pump at work? How was it? So I never had to pump at my current job because I started when Gray was around 14 months, and he was still nursing then, but it wasn't, his main food source, and so I just would nurse whenever I was home. I did pump a little bit when I was working part-time in retail, probably just once a shift, maybe twice. It was also when Gray was a little bit older. My employers at the time were very nice, and whenever I did have to pump, they would let me lock the store and just go to the back and pump. Having understanding employers when it comes to pumping is super important, but also know it's your right to do that. So know your rights and stand up for yourself. If you want to continue breastfeeding and pumping, that is completely within your right. Do I work from home / how often do I work from home if I do? So in my last role as a recruiter, I did not work from home, but now that I am in human resources, they actually let me work from home on Fridays, which I very much do enjoy. It's obviously nice not having to wake up as early, put my work clothes, and get in the car and drive to work, but it's also really nice because I do get to see Gray on my lunch break and for short amounts of time throughout the day. So I really do enjoy working from home. How did you find a daycare that you trusted? This is super important. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I am much more willing to spend a lot of money on daycare than I might be willing to spend money in other areas of my life, and that's because I do think it's really important to find a daycare that you feel safe and confident in sending your child there, and because I think it'll make being a working parent so much easier. But my big advice is, if you know you're going to be working and you're pregnant right now, or not even if you're pregnant, but if you know in the next 6 months you're going to be sending your kid to daycare, start getting on lists now. There were places that I put my name on lists that either A, I still haven't heard back from, or There was one I heard back from literally this month when I had applied pretty much a year ago. So these daycares, or the good ones anyway, fill up super fast. We were pretty much left with 2 options that I felt comfortable with, and we toured both. And as cliche as it sounds, it really is a gut feeling, and it's how they make you feel and how you can see that they treat the children there. If you can, definitely go while kids are there. The first one we went to, they only offered tours after hours when there weren't children there, and it felt a little more sterile to me, I guess, like a less friendly environment. It still seemed like a good option. It also was the more expensive one, but I just didn't get as great of a feeling from the teachers and the administrators. It's the second one we toured, which is where he ended up now. It's a Montessori school, which I was excited about since that kind of aligns with a lot of my values as a parent, but I kind of thought it would be out of our price range, but it was surprisingly cheaper than our other option, and it really felt more homey to me and more loving and warm. You can tell his teachers really care about him, and that makes me feel comforted as well. They constantly give us updates and let us know how he's doing, and they're excited for him when he's successful as well. How do you cope with housework? So I'm really lucky that Matthew is able to take on a lot of that burden being a stay-at-home parent, and he's also very good at it. Like, he is very type A, organized and clean, so he does a very good job of keeping everything in order, and I so appreciate him for that. And if you are a working parent, whether it's maybe you're the main provider or maybe you and your spouse both work, you need to find some sort of balance that works for both of you, because no one person should be taking all of that on. And that is it for the Q&A. If you can't tell, this is present day Allie. I filmed this video probably more than 2 months ago, and I was finally able to sit down and edit it. I hope some of y'all were able to benefit from this still, or at least found it interesting. But thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe and follow along for more content coming soon. I am now posting regularly again, hopefully on a weekly basis. Also, don't forget to check out the link in my description to try out Nectar for yourself. I honestly love this mattress so much. We've been sleeping on it for months now, and I could not recommend them more. Thanks again for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Missing someone.